Live. Welcome. Welcome to the Anyone Can Farm live chat. I'm Mark, your host, coming to you from Baker's Green Acres in Marion, Michigan. Thursday night, we usually set aside for a little bit of interview action, but we've been kind of busy and we didn't have anybody lined up. And I thought, well, why don't we just do what we used to do was we'd call it open line, and we'd just talk about whatever people wanted to talk about. Hey, Keith. And, I have a couple things that I thought of today, but not really, didn't really think it through enough. And I'll just start by telling you that tonight's show is going to be an open line show. Like, we can talk about what you guys want to talk about, so long as it's clean, I guess. Family friendly show. My day kind of went like this. I was supposed to be meeting with the refrigerator man this morning here at the house, and he was going to be fixing the freezer, the walk-in freezer. It's got a little bit of a problem, and he couldn't get at it until I modified the roof, and I got that done. And so he was supposed to be out. I made arrangements with him yesterday. Hi, Belva. And but also our friend Matt wanted to come and finish up on the building, finish trimming it out. And so I needed to go get some stuff for him. I thought I could get it right down in town at the lumber yard, but I went down there and they didn't have it. So that meant I had to go all the way over to, like, a couple towns over into Tustin to get it. And so I called the refrigerator man and saying, "What time are you planning to come?" And he said, "Oh, I was just going to call you. I got ambushed and I got to do something else before I get over there. So I wouldn't be over there until late this afternoon, if at all." And I said, "Well, that's fine." And so I'll just go get these parts for Matt, and then I'll be back in time and everything will go fine. And so my day adjusted. And I just, I got done what I needed to, and got things back here. And oh boy, I think Matt left about 1 or 2, and then had some lunch and read for a little bit, and then went out. All right, Vindicti's with us. Declare Homestead's with us. Went out, and me and Frank had to move some stuff around. And then I started thinking about energy. And some of you may have been here for the soils workshop with Craig Schaff, and he said a lot of really profound things in that presentation. But one that I remember, we were talking a little bit about the times that we're in. This is, if you're in your 50s, 40s, 50s, 60s, you remember a different time in America. Not saying that it was all roses, but it was just a lot different. You didn't hear conversations about bad times and hatred of each other. And people were kind of busy with the business of life and getting done what they needed to do, I guess. That's what I remember. I mean, I guess I've been a prepper forever. I really have. I just always have. And I've done what I do, but now I'm hearing things. And so I went over to Tustin today to get those parts, and it just happens to be an Amish outfit. And they see me coming, and it's like they have questions for me because they don't really know what's going on in the outside world. They don't have phones and stuff. And then if they hear what's going on from some of their customers, a lot of times I don't think they believe it. I don't think they really buy it. So when they have somebody coming that they can relate to. And this may seem kind of strange, but I can relate to Amish people really well because I came here out of a military community, and so I don't fit in with the people that are here, in McBain community. Not so much. I mean, I have very superficial conversations with 90% of them that don't go much further than that don't go very far at all. So, but with the Amish, they're very inquisitive people and always are looking for the next thing for them to do. And sometimes I give them a hard time when I say we can do it cheaper. But they're industrious people, where a lot of our people are not. They're not industrious at all. They are content to work a job that they hate and continue to do it for very low wages, and just that's as far as they're going to go. They like being told what to do, and that's it. They're not going to create anything. They're not going to invent anything. They're not going to get a system together that will do something. Most of them, that's just how they are. I do know a guy that came out of the Amish community, came out when he was really young, and his parents did, and he's still got that drive to do different things and innovative things. And he I get along really good with him. And I'm not sure where my drive came from exactly. Maybe the books that I read when I was a kid. Could be. I don't exactly know, but I did know people that were doing things that I just thought were cool, and I wanted to do some of those cool things. So anyway, a lot of us remember a time when we weren't hearing these types of conversations. I heard a very ugly conversation when I was in the middle of this conversation with this Amish guy, older guy, and he was saying, "Oh yeah, weren't you in the army for a while?" And it was actually, no, I was in the Air Force, but I was in there for 20 years, and now I've been out for 18 years, and there's been a lot that I've seen and a lot that I've learned, and it kind of takes shape, and you can sort of see what's going on, and they are kind of wondering, well, how is this going to affect them? Because at their shop, normally that place is bustling when you're down there. You go down there and they have like 2 generators running, and there's probably 8 or 10 guys working there, forklifts going everywhere. They're running the machine that extrudes out the sheet metal, and they're just really ripping. But last time I called them, which would have been beginning of the week, I was ordering steel up for whenever I could get it. And he said, "When do you need it by?" And I said, "Well, I need it as soon as I can get it." And he says, "Why don't you start rolling now, and we'll have it ready by the time you get here?" And that's out of the ordinary. And so when I got down there, I noticed, wow, there's not much going on down here. It's pretty quiet. And the guy says, "Yeah, it's a little strange because this is when we really do a lot of business. This time of the year. The builders are slamming it right now, putting up pole buildings and stuff because they want to get it done and make their money before Christmas, before New Year's, and there's just the jobs just aren't coming in. People aren't building, and I guess this older guy wanted to know, what you think the story is. And I said, I don't exactly know, but I do know this. I know that Black Friday was a complete flop. And that is when the retailers, they start their extremely busy season. And I've been into town, and it's dead, so I have heard, let's see, once in a while I listen to this guy named Tony at Sale Daddy, and he seems to be in touch with retail goings-ons and things like that. I don't know. He's a good guy to listen to for me. So I do listen to him once in a while. I mean, I don't listen to any one guy and say, "Oh, this is what's going to happen." I like to get a cross section, everything from the pastors that are talking about prophecy all the way to the tarot card readers, and everywhere in between, and the mystics, right? But there is a common thread everywhere, and that's there is uncertainty and disrest, and people are concerned about a bad occurrence coming, and then people try to put a label on it, like what is this bad occurrence going to be? And then it's, well, war, um, it's the collapse of the American dollar, it is just the collapse of the Babylonian system. That one sounds good to me. Collapse of that whole thing. And it appears that it is collapsing right now. But I don't know. I don't have any inside poop. I just am watching it like you guys are watching it. But anyway, that conversation was an interesting conversation. Then this guy came in and he says, "Yeah, well, it'll be okay if they don't let those people from downstate come up." And I said, "Well, probably there's going to be a limited movement." And he says something about guns, and he who has the most guns. And I said to him, shooting at people is never a good idea. I mean, of course, he doesn't know anything about that, but anyway, uh, I didn't like it. I didn't like the cut of that. I think there's better solutions on a local level. Like I've said, if I were the governor of this state, I would say, okay, here are the things that we're facing. So let's see, what do we do to fix this? How do we meet this challenge head on? Right? And how does everybody win by doing this? But that's not what these people are about. They're about supporting a system that is just kind of failing, and there's seems to be two factions within the system, and they're fighting for control. And of course there's the good guys and the bad guys, and I don't know. But I think the thing to do is, well, as I say all the time, is just to be prepared and see what your situation is and what's the best for you, and know what your minimums are, know what your have to haves and how much have to haves, and then start from there. um, I've had people say to me, well, what, my 401k, I don't know what I should do with that. Well, that's all based on stuff that you don't have any control of. And on the homestead, we have control, more control. Do we have total control? No, we don't have total control. We're dealing with the weather, and we're dealing with, the people and the organizations that we depend on. I depend on consumers' energy to supply energy to my house. What if they decide they're not going to do it anymore, or they can't do it, or they're prevented from doing it? Yeah, that's not good. I don't control that. Um, so And there are other things too that I don't control, but the things that I do control or have a say over, those are the things that I focus my energy on, and I make happen what I need to make happen there. So, yeah, I'll go back through and I'll read what I got here. But I'll tell you what my day was like. I got back and Matt was going hot and heavy on trimming out that building. And I got to say, I step back from it and I say, that looks nice. And so Frank and I went out after lunch, and then we had to get our firewood covered up. I got another big load of firewood came in. And as we were covering it up, I was telling him how important it is to have this covered until we can get it stacked inside. Because if we wind up getting covered with snow, sometimes it's really hard to get the wood out of the snow. Like the longer it's sifting down through the wood, it's hard to get it out. And him asking me, we have a lot of firewood. How can we have so much? And I said, well, firewood is a good thing to have. Uh, Even if you have more than you need, you may need to share some with someone else. You never know. But these days, I think it's a good idea to invest in the things that you need for your minimums. Like if you're sleeping in a warm house, you're a lot better off than if you're sleeping in a cold house. And if you're relying on electric heat, then that could end. Or if you're relying on propane and your furnace is electrically operated, you could have no heat. So having a backup of a wood burning stove is really nice. Now, um, I've just always felt this way, that I would rather have the more reliable of the two be my primary. We do have an oil furnace in the house. I've not turned it on in 15 years. And when we moved here and it got cold, I turned it on and it came on. But it ran constantly. The house is not insulated very well. So I burned through a lot of oil really quickly, and it didn't smell so good. I could smell fumes in the house. So I shut it off and we installed a wood stove. I've had, I think, 3 or 4 different wood stoves now. The one that I have now is the one that I'm going to stay with. I absolutely love the wood stove I have now. It just does such a good job. And the only thing I've got I've got 2 things that enhance its performance, and they're both very simple. One is a ceiling fan that is right above it and that swirls and it washes the warm air down, because the warm air, I don't know if you're aware of this, but warm air rises. And if you have that fan smushing it out, it pushes it out into the rest of the house. And the house is very comfortable. I mean, it's not like central heating where every part of the house is the same temperature. Yeah, if you sit near the wood stove, it's warm. And if you're in the living room watching TV, you might need to have a blanket over your feet, which isn't always a bad thing. And it's kind of fun, actually. I don't mind that. We've just gotten used to it, and I don't really. I mean, I'm going to put a propane heater in eventually, just so if we need to leave for a couple days, we can just turn it on, and the house will stay sort of warm, so the pipes don't freeze up. But um, yeah, that was an interesting conversation. Let me go back through and see what you guys got and see if there's something interesting here that we want to talk about. I am up for anything. There we go. I've been blabbing and I haven't seen everybody come in. Vindicti's in. Belva. Okay, Vindicti. I'm on time for the first time in a long while. All right, well. The clerics. Would you breed rabbits in the winter? Oh, yeah. Yeah. My breeding of rabbits expertise comes from a book that I bought when we first got rabbits. So this is like, whew, this is like 25 years ago, probably a little longer. And this book, I got it from a place called Big R out in Great Falls, Montana. And I read through it twice. And this book says that rabbits, if you don't breed them in the wintertime, then they will coalesce fat inside, and when they get fat, they don't breed. So you want to keep them breeding all the time. And I found out in an interview that we did with what was that guy's name? He's been here since. I can't think of his name. He's whale of a guy. If somebody thinks of it, throw it in there. I just forget the guy's name. And he does more rabbits than anything. And he was saying that, because I was telling him, we're just having a real tough time with it. They're just not, usually rabbits, you can't control their breeding. But we've had a real hard time with not only this group of rabbits, but a group that we had before and a group that we had before that. We just keep switching them out, thinking we've got bad moms or something. But he says our dogs walking around, the rabbits can see them, and that worries them, and they won't take. It's just a really natural thing. If there's predators around, they just won't have babies. So all we have to do is put blinds up on the inside so the rabbits can't see the dogs, and they'll be fine, is what he said. Right. So, hey, what breed would I breed? Yes, I certainly would. I would. Yeah, I certainly would. Yeah. I think a way to look at this, Keith, is this was one of the things I thought about today. Like, uh, we are at a place in American history where a lot of people are saying, well, what do you think's going to happen? I don't know. What do you think's going to happen? There seems to be this continual demoralization to the American public, continual. It's like a war against them. You know, every day you turn around, Matt gets here today. He says, well, did you hear about this Brittany something or other? And evidently it's a woman basketball player who Matt says is actually a man. I don't know, because I was listening to Matt Walsh and he didn't say anything about this basketball player being a man, but I did see a picture of this person with no shirt on, and it certainly looked like a man to me. But I don't know, because nowadays you just never know. It may have been a female that wants to be a man and so got things fixed. Who knows? It's all craziness. But anyway, this person was going into the into Russia and had drugs and drug paraphernalia, or maybe it was just drug paraphernalia, and got picked up, arrested, and put in prison. And then old Joe Biden worked a trade deal, a prisoner swap, and Joe traded this lesbian basketball player America hating thing for a known um, weapons gun runner, more than just guns though, really bad stuff that in the United States is known as one of the worst human beings, is responsible for a lot of American deaths. And so Joe did the swap, right? For this basketball player that hates America and is useless. And then there was this other Marine, a guy from Michigan, actually had been a cop in Michigan, a canine cop, and then joined the Marines and was working in Russia and get picked up on espionage charges. So, and Joe didn't work a swap for that individual with this weapons runner that we had in custody. So it's like more of the same story of, America last and decency overrun, which to me, it just seems like a demoralization campaign, and the moral American is taking it again in the shorts. And it's just building this resentment against government, against not all government is bad, even at this point. There's a lot of good people in government, but our government is way too big, and it is way too full of people that probably should just go get a job someplace and see what that's like for a change. Um, you know what I mean? The parasite class, the bureaucrat, know nothing, do nothing, educated, overeducated weenie. That class of people, there's way too many of them, and they're at every level. They're at township, county, state, federal. It's pretty bad. They're the problem in the country, I believe. Matt and I were actually having a conversation about this today, and we were talking about the building of settlements on private property. So, say on our property, we have a processing facility that we've built. Now, if I had gone to, let's say I wanted to build this in town, and I go to the city planning board, they would put so many obstacles in your way that you would just say, with permitting and licensing and all this stuff, you got to get the buy off of the health department and the building department and the equal opportunity department and the gay rights department and all these things that you would eventually say, well, the hell with this. And that's why there's so many buildings sitting downtown just empty, because people are saying, oh, the hell with this. But you can accomplish the same thing even better on private property. Like, if I want to have a barber shop uh, in on my property, and I want to just watch a few YouTube videos and become a barber, I can. And even my wife can certify me as a barber. Why? Because she's been cutting these beautiful locks here for about 30 years, right? So I'd be certified and then I could be a barber, right? But if I want to do that in town, they'll say, oh, well, we've got to put it to the vote. We already have one barber, and two barbers would be too many. And plus, we really like him and we don't like you. And, that's what you deal with. But on private property, you can say, well, I think I'll just put in a beauty shop, or I think I'll put in a birthing center, right? You can do that. You can do that. If you want to have a butcher shop, build it. If you want to have a catering service, build it. Just do it. You don't have to ask anybody's permission. It is actually guaranteed to you under the Fifth Amendment. But it's the bureaucrat class that wants to say, yeah, you can do it, but you got to check with us first, and we'll sell you a permit to do it. We'll give you permission to do it. Why? Because we are smarter than you. And Americans have bought into it so continuously for so long that when I talk like this, people are like, ooh, I don't know. There was a young man recently who contacted me, had put something together on his own property. But the big mistake that he made was and it was just like a little barn where you could come in and you could get something to drink, and you could get pumpkins and Christmas trees and stuff like that. Very seasonal, very small town. And so he checked with the township, and they said, "Oh, yeah, but you've got to go check with the building department." And they gave him a whole checklist of things that he had to do, and he did it. He bought into it, and then they changed their tune, and they said, "Well, we said you could do it in that building, but not that building." And I don't know, it's maybe not. And they just changed their tune, and then they hamstrung him. And I was trying to tell him that he's already bought into their rule book, and that he needs to just chuck their rule book, go with the Fifth Amendment, and um, just press on. But he's so ingrained with their thing that I couldn't get him off of it, and I did not want to. I didn't want to tell him the whole story, him hear about a quarter of it, and then him get himself in trouble. I didn't want to do it, so I had to drop him, because he would not listen to me in the entirety of it. But yeah, me and Matt were having this conversation today, and it's like we don't even have a decent restaurant around here, and nobody wants to do it because the bureaucrat class will just regulate you to death, and you'll finally say, the hell with it, I just won't do it. So our society is kind of declining because of the bureaucrat class, and they're killing all the fun things to do. Like, Here's something that somebody could do on their farm that'd be really fun. Put in a roller skating rink. It's not that hard to do. Not at all. But if you try to do it in town, oh, safety. I don't know. Yeah, but everybody's got to have knee pads on, shoulder pads, elbow pads, a mouth guard, and be, vaccinated, whatever. So you would just say, forget it, forget it. I don't want to do it. Well, you have a roller skating rink. Well, let's sell French fries. Oh no, oh no, we've got to have the health department come in here and make sure that your water is testing correctly, and then make sure that the splatter shields are up so nobody gets hurt. It was just that whole class of parasites that have to justify their job. It's like, yeah, they can't just sign it off. Yeah, good to go. Have a nice time. They can't. No. Oh, you got to have insurance too. Oh, yeah. What if somebody falls down and breaks a tooth? It's just the world's, because of that, is going to hell. But this is the point of the homesteading direction that we're going. Keith, you're asking me, would I breed in the winter and why and all this. I think what you need to do is you need to look down the road as far as you can see, right? As far as you can see down the road, and then look behind and try to get an azimuth on where we're going as a society. Where are we going? And is that where you want to go? Is that where you want to go? And if the answer is no, and you want to be self sufficient and autonomous, and you really like the idea of being a sovereign citizen governed by a constitution or protected by a constitution from the bureaucrat, if you really like that idea, then maybe this is a good way to go. So you have your homestead. Maybe someday homesteads become settlements. Okay, so what am I doing here? This is just an example. Okay, we've decided to do the quarter acre homestead, and there's a couple reasons for that. But the quarter acre homestead is it's a demographic. All right, the people who live on a quarter acre is a very significant piece of the pie graph in the United States. As things change in the United States, people are saying, "Boy, I'd like to have a handle on my own food production. I sure would. I wish I had a farm." Yeah, but I only got a quarter of an acre, so there's nothing you can do on a quarter of an acre. Well, that's what somebody who is ignorant would say, you know. But having done this career field for over 20 years now, oh, you can do a lot on a quarter acre. You can do a lot on a quarter acre if you really put your mind to it. Start with one section of ground and put your carrot bed in there. Ooh, carrots. Well, I can't eat all these carrots, but maybe I could get rabbits, and the rabbits could eat the carrots, and they'll even eat the tops, and then I can eat the rabbits. Oh, and then I got these nice pelts. I'll make these into swimming trunks, fur-lined swimming trunks. And where does it go from there? You can, that might sound a little crazy, but you will add on grapes and a garden and a pen of pigs. Pen of pigs on a quarter acre? How big, how many pigs do you want to have? You really only need to have about 4 pigs, 2 real little ones, and you get 2 new ones every year. And then you have a little area where you have a little, maybe an overhang from a garage or something, or maybe there's a nice shade tree there that you could put a block and tackle up, so you could pull that pig up in there and you could butcher it. And then maybe you can have a hanging room that you can put your pork in, that you've learned how to salt and cure because you came to this class here on the 10th and 11th. Oh, but maybe you'd rather be hungry. Oh, I'll go to the next one. Yeah, you don't know if the wheels are going to fall off by next year. You don't know, and nobody knows. But you're going to put it off. I get it. I used to do that too. I'm glad I haven't, though. So I think that's what you need to do is you need to try and look down the road and see where we're going. I don't necessarily believe, oh, it's just going to be Mad Max and then it will be okay. I don't. I think it's going to be a shift. Some places in the cities, yeah, it's going to be Mad Max for sure. What? Because there's no food. There's no food production. But out here in the perimeter, we're not going to wait for the Department of Agriculture weenies to come and tell us that we need to do things differently. We're not waiting for them. That's the whole point of this. We're saying, okay, it looks like we got a problem coming. Let's meet it here. And then we've done a lot of talking amongst ourselves. Okay, well, if I am in food production here and nobody else is, I'm kind of a target, aren't I? Well, not necessarily. Uh, right now, if I need to hire people to come, I have to go look for them. If there's a food shortage, I won't have to look for them. They'll be looking for me. They'll come and say, "Can we buy some food?" I'll say, "Really? Yeah, what do you got for money? I can take money still." But let's say the money's no good, and let's say that's what creates the problem is that the U.S. dollar collapses. Right? They would never do that. They wouldn't. They wouldn't. They will do. You need to look in the rearview mirror and just see what they've done. They've already admitted that thing that just terrorized our country came out of some words you can't say. It came out of a laboratory. They've admitted it, and they've admitted that the antidote doesn't work. And now they're having to admit, and we've known this forever. We've known this. It's no surprise to me, right? They create a problem and they want to give you the solution. That's exactly what they did. What's the solution? The solution was and what's happening to people have taken what's happening to them. I don't even need to talk about that because we all know. So they wouldn't. Yes, they would. They would. And so if the dollar collapses and we're still in the food production business, how can you do that, Mark? I can do that because I don't buy fertilizer. So I won't need money to buy fertilizer. Fertilizer is the poop that comes out of the cows. Well, you got to feed the cows. The cows eat grass. Well, you got to have grass. Yeah, you do. It grows. And, most of the time we're grazing. I'm still grazing my cattle at this point. I stockpiled a bunch down in the back, and the cows really get off on that. They really like it. Now, there are some things that are going to be difficult. Could be diesel fuel. I got to have it. I got to have parts. You know, where's that going to come from? I don't really know. We're a little ahead on that. We're stockpiling it, but how much can you really stockpile? That's a good question. You don't see communities stockpiling diesel fuel because they don't want to. The leadership in communities it they can't admit that we're headed for a problem. They can't do that. That's not. They all have to go along with the storyline. That's what communism is. We all believe the same thing. And I don't know. They should be they could be stockpiling it now and they could be, being prepared, but they're not. They just if you go into a township meeting and talk about this, they will disregard you because that's just conspiracy talk, That's what they'll say. Yeah. So whatever. So it's up to us to get ready. So I think that one of the subjects that it would be really interesting is if we develop an idea of what America 2023 could look like. We can imagine just smoke and gunshots and stuff, but it doesn't have to be that way. It really doesn't. When you come right down to it, people are not likely to just turn to violence right off the bat. There's got to be a better way than that. And we're on fertile ground. It still rains, the sun still shines, the grass still grows. Yeah, you might lose your 401, but you're playing a dangerous game with that anyway, and you should have known that, but people didn't. But now you do. Okay, would I breed rabbits in the winter? Yes, I would. Um, and I think you want to do that because you just want to continue your production, right? Like right now, you don't have people knocking your door down to get rabbits, but that's now. That's now. There's still food at the Myers, right? There's still food at Wally World. This is what Sale Daddy was saying that got my attention. He said that at Walmart and Myers too, they make their money from October to January, and then they start laying people off. That's their money making time. The hula days, the holidays, and it's not happening. It's not happening. Black Friday was a complete flop this year. I don't think you heard anything about that on mainstream media. I didn't, but I just heard from people who wound up out on Black Friday and, oh, I forgot about this. Where normally you would know if you went into a store, you would know it's Black Friday because there's fighting and everything and flat screen TVs getting thrown about. But it wasn't like that. So people aren't spending money. Like maybe they don't have it because they've been spending it on fuel and food has gone up. But anyway, in these stores, he says that food is the loss leader, right? The loss leader. Okay, so loss leader is if I want to get people on the farm, then I sell eggs really cheap. And when they're on the farm, oh, you have milk. Oh, you have this. Oh, you have this. So you take a loss on eggs, let's say. I don't do any of that, but that's modern marketing. But uh, the food is the loss leader in those big stores, and then they make a killing on the stuff that they import from you know where, and then they mark it up 50%. That's where they make their money. The electronics and all the cheap stuff that they bring in from that country. And that's not happening, right? So the question is, will they be able to continue with the loss leader? Can they still continue the food thing, or will they continue it in, like in our community, we have a Walmart and a Myers, and they're competing. And some people swear by Walmart. Some people swear by uh, they're both the same as far as they have the same stuff, and this one will have sales and this one will have sales, but you got a choice. Myers or Walmart, that's it. That's your choice. Coke or Pepsi, that's your choice. They're both the same. One's got creepier looking people in it. That's it. But after midnight they get really creepy. um but will the food stay? Will they continue with the food? We know that a lot of the mom and pop operations gone during Wu flu, gone. They shut them down, but they kept Wally World open and Myers. It kind of interesting, kind of worrisome. Really, it almost looks like that's the direction that they're going. So, what will America 2023 look like? What will America 2024 look like? If it's not Mad Max, and we as a population have met the need head on, what are we meeting it with? If it's food and we meet it, what does that look like? If it's community and we meet it, what's that look like? We've done a couple community events here this year, and when people come, they're like leaning forward, like, "Hey, what do you want us to do? What do we need to do here?" We've been relying on the wrong people for far too long, and the positions are always filled with the wrong kind of people. They always seek power and authority. The wrong people do. where the right people that would be in those positions, you'd pretty much have to, um, you'd pretty much have to, I don't know, sort of like a military contract. Like, okay, it's your turn. You're going to have to work here for a while, you know. Like, just think if they got rid of everybody at the Department of Agriculture, everybody, every last stinking parasite that works there. They're all parasites. Make sure you I'm not being hyperbolic about that. They produce nothing. Nothing. And they say that they're responsible for the food safety that we enjoy in this country. That is so far from the truth. It's like you have Walmart and you have um, Myers. If one of them poisons somebody, it gets around town and then people don't go there anymore. Like the deli counter, if they poison somebody, people get sick. A whole bunch of people get sick because they've done something incorrect. It would get around and people wouldn't go to the deli counter. So they have, within the store, they're quite strict. It's not because some lady with a white coat and a clipboard and a hairnet comes in, some slob comes in. That's not why they do a good job. They basically appease that piece of trash. Just get her out of here. Give her some cookies and get her out of here, right? And same thing with restaurants. The chefs that run restaurants, they can't afford to serve people food that is not wholesome. They can't. But yet the Department of Agriculture, they take credit for. You like safe food, don't you? Yeah, if it wasn't for us, they'd be poisoning you all. Okay, well let's kind of analyze that a little bit. Every time we have a food recall because somebody gets sick, does somebody at the Department of Agriculture lose a job or go to jail or something? Because they're the ones providing oversight on this stuff. Does that ever happen? No. So they're not really responsible for anything. They're not even responsible for themselves. I remember the inspector that we had. I still remember her name. I won't say it just because I don't want to be mean, but she still lives around here, I think. The inside of her car looked like somebody took a trash can, literally, and emptied it into the car. It was a state car, had a state logo on the side, and she was a mess, an absolute mess. But she had made it through college and got some sort of weenie degree. I mean, she was a mess, just a mess. And she was in charge of telling us how to run our butcher shop. It's just unbelievable. Anyway, and then we ditched that license here, 6-7 years ago. And now business is better than ever because we ditched that license. It's not a draw on us of having those weenies always lurking around and making life miserable. And then if you don't do what they want you to do, who knows? They might have shut us down during the Wu flu if we had a license with them, because that would give them the right to come on. Right now, they don't have the right to come on without a warrant or an invitation from me. They cannot come on. It would be detrimental to their welfare to do that. So anyway, what is America 2.0 going to look like? And I've told you guys all along, I'm optimistic. I just have this feeling of optimism because I think once that prosperity, the pursuit of happiness or the pursuit of prosperity is unfettered by a forced partnership with the parasite class that infiltrates every level of government, without being forced to deal with them, I think this place could be just beautiful. I mean, really beautiful. Just think if you could go from one farm to the next. And you've got this nice farm here, and they've got a nice kitchen with a really nice dining room, and they serve 10 people. And the cook is some really nice 20-year-old gal, and her friend comes over and helps serve, and candles on the table, and whatever kind of wine you want. Beautiful view out the back 40, see cows with the tails going back and forth, and you get a top-notch meal, and you don't have to be in town. You can drive out of there and go straight home, listen to whatever music you want to. And you don't have to deal with the Ruby Tuesday crowd. You could have a nice, high class, quality, and you wouldn't have to be a rich person to do it. You could be an average person to do it. And they could be everywhere, right? There could be bakeries on farms. There could be barbershops on farms. There could be infirmaries on farms. There could be everything could be on private property, and you could go from one farm to the next to get these services that you want instead of town, where they regulate you out of business, and you always have people coming in to check, make sure that you had your shots. Anyway, that's what I see. That's what I see America 2.0, and I see the people who thrive and survive as people who right now are serious about becoming skilled. Like, what the hell are you good for? I know people right now who have physical problems that are saying, I don't care. I'm getting myself skilled. I'm going to do this. I'm going to do this. Yeah, it's tough, but I'm going to do it anyway. We had a gal here last weekend, and people write in this chat that have got challenges, but they're not holding back. They're not waiting. They're not taking that poor me attitude, right? Because there's so much to do. There's so much opportunity right now. Me and Matt were talking today about the Depression, about the Great Depression. It just so happens I had asked this Amish guy. He's probably in his mid to late 70s, and I said, "Did you study much about the Depression when you were in school? Like, they only go to 8th grade." And he's like, "Actually, no, I don't know anything about that." Is this recent? And I said, "No," and I don't hold it against them. They just don't learn stuff like that. And not that it really mattered to him his whole 75 years that he didn't know about the Great Depression. It didn't at all. He's very happy and, healthy, and, got a nice little farm that he lives on, and he's got a job still, and got him a nice horse. What else does he need? But so I started telling him about it, and I said, a lot of people did really well during the Depression because they saw a problem coming and they positioned themselves so that they could continue to operate without the hindrance of a broken system. So we definitely have a broken system right now, and it's definitely failing. And they're getting worse. The parasite class is getting worse. Why? I don't know why. I think it's because they have to prove to their superiors that they need to be there. And the only way they can do it is just to lean on, the little guy, the independent businessman, I think. Anyway. All right, here's a question. How can you stop Pyrenees from chasing chickens, but still know to chase any hawks and predators away? Yeah, we've had that. We've had that. When they're puppies, they can play with chickens until they kill them. Yeah, and I don't think they really. I don't think they really intend to just go out and kill a chicken, but they'll chase them around and they'll catch them. They'll hold on to them and then chew them a little, and then thing tries to get away and they grab them, they pull them back, and before you know it, the thing's dead. And then if there's any blood, they can eat the head off of it, and then it's getting worse. But what you have to do is take the chicken, put it right in their face, and then spank them. And it went on with Chloe, our new one. And this is going to sound kind of bad, but she would take the spanks. I would spank her, and then she would kind of take it and then smile at me. She would smile at me. And then I think the last time that she did it, I cold cocked her. I did. I hit her with a closed fist, and I hit her hard. And it just cleaned her clock. And then she kind of went off whimpering, and that was it. That was the last time that she touched a chicken. But she did kill a couple of them. And we've had it with all of our females have done that. I don't think Louis has done it. It was Chloe, and Claire did it too. And Claire, when it came to an end, she would just carry them around. So she would pick them up and she'd carry them from location to location, but she stopped killing them. We had a blue heeler that had a chicken fetish, and I had made the decision that you can't be here, and I was going to shoot him, and I hated to do it. And I walked over to him, and instead of shooting him, I just put one right next to him. And he had that chicken tied around his neck. And that was it for him. He never did it again. And then I remember months later saying to myself, oh, I'm so glad I didn't shoot you, Blue. But then later on, he developed this habit where when we would leave, he would want to herd everything. And there was another dog too, Wags. And between the two of them, they did a lot of damage. We had goats back then, and they hurt a lot of goats that we wound up having to butcher. They were hurt so badly, and they had been chased for hours and hours and hours, and cut up, chewed up really bad, really bad. And so we wound up shooting them anyway, him and Wags both. Yeah, it was bad. I remember that time. I look back on it and say, how could you have been so cruel? But at the time, it's like, well, how can we leave the house if when we leave, these guys are going to tear the animals up? They're going to jump into pens just so they can chase the animals. So, all right. So it's corporal punishment. It is corporal punishment. That's how you do it. Okay, Ballistic. I was cutting wood on Sunday and a tree fell on my head. Am I glad I prayed before I started that I wouldn't get hurt? I didn't get hurt, although it knocked me to the ground. Yeah. Yeah. Okay. What's this? Same here, Vindicti. Ghost. The ghost of Smith & Wesson 627. Oh, and then our friends from Free Girls in the City, sexfine.biz. Free Girls in U City. In U City. U City? Okay. The upcoming World War III is to hide the deaths from the you know what. Has anybody else noticed that? That there's just an awful lot of obituaries winding up on like Facebook, and you kind of wonder, it doesn't say in the obituary, well, he was Johnson and Johnson or anything, like it doesn't say, but you kind of wonder because it's a lot of young looking people. Maybe they're just young photographs, but they didn't used to put obituaries in there. I don't know. It's people that are posting them, and you just don't know. I read one this morning, and it's been on my mind all day. It was a kid that I was in junior high school with. He was in my homeroom 8th grade. His name was Vincent Brescher, and he was mean. He was mean to me. I don't hold it against him. I didn't go to high school with him, but I understand he went in the army. But he died. He was just young. I mean, he's my age. I don't know. Seems young anyway. I'm going 120. I just got too much to do. Leading cause of death in Alberta 2021 was unknown causes. Yeah. Seems like there are less people around, says Ballistic. It does, doesn't it? But, I think that a lot of people are taking this whole period in time very hard, I think. And Nancy's with us. How you doing, Nance? Ghost says, wood is always the best. Simply a cozier type of heat. Yeah. Okay, Nancy says, I ordered a meat saw. Comes tomorrow, so I'll be cutting my pig primal down further. You know what? You really need to get somebody to photograph that process happening. I know you don't like to be photographed because we don't even really know what you look like, but you should, just so we can see that happening, and then give a commentary on the tribe that, hey, here's my new meat saw that I just got, and here's me cutting these primals up on the meat saw. Don't cut your hand off, though, especially if it's live. That would be bad. Okay, Nancy's saying, I have 2 red New Zealand rabbits and 1 broken New Zealand rabbit. Broken. Yes, a man, I'm sure. You think? I don't know. You think Matt Walsh would have said something about that? Nancy says she was going to stop, but I think I'll breed them a longer period between breeding sessions. I think excuse me. I think what we're going to do, thank you, is use a buck and use sows or does. That's the female rabbit. Use them for an entire breeding season, and then cycle them out and replace them. And cycle them out, I mean process them. So, and just keep cycling through like that, and your output is meat and manure. Meat and manure. Ballistic's got a good point here. The greatest generation is traumatized, and we're about totally compliant. They sure were. They sure were. Devastating. Okay, Haven's with us. Right on, man. Inga, we haven't seen you in a while. Everyone is afraid to break the laws and the rules set in place for us to their reality world. But if you live under your reality world, your religion, you sign no contract with anyone. I would take a little bit of issue with what you're saying there, because you lump laws and rules together. I am a law-abiding citizen. That means I realize that I live in a representative republic governed by a constitution, a federal constitution. I realize that. That's reality, and I'm glad for that. The Constitution, Bill of Rights, Bill of Rights is the first part of the Constitution, and that's where you start. And that's a really good idea to get an idea of the gist of the Constitution. Is it limits what the government can do, because governments are notorious for becoming tyrannical. and it, it just it's kind of inevitable. They all do it because they seek power and money, the two insatiable things that they have, that are granted to them by us, the citizens, and they want more and more and more. And it's almost like we work for the government instead of them being our servants. It's crazy the way it goes. But because of the Constitution, we have the right to free speech. Like, I slam them all the time. And I tell you guys, this is what you need to do. Do not think that any form of government is your friend. It isn't. They're your friend until they bend you over the barrel. And that's when they have their best day, is when they're bending you over the barrel, right? And it's sad that it's like that, but that's reality. I mean, just look back in history, and they can get really tough on people. Government has killed more people than anybody, you know. So laws and rules are not the same. Rules in a representative republic, I actually elect the people. I send the people to Lansing to make the legislation that gets signed into laws. And luckily, there's two sides to it, and there's a struggle to get things signed into law. And that's good. We don't want them coming up with laws all the time. Matter of fact, it needs to be extremely difficult for them to come up with laws, because that's how they gain their power, is by coming up with laws that restrict us. But the laws have to be within the confines, and they have to square with the Bill of Rights, the U.S. Constitution. So if they come out and they say, well, this law 232 says nobody can have a pig with a straight tail or a curly tail. Well, if they came out with a law like that, well, that would not be constitutional, because the Fifth Amendment says, well, wait a minute, would it be constitutional? Well, wait a minute now. What am I? Oh, well, no, they can't come out with a law like that, because if it was put forth as a bill, you both sides would be looking at that saying, we're going to look like idiots if we try to get this legislation passed. So the way they end run that is they let the departments do it. The departments come out with rules, like declaratory rulings, and nobody calls them on it, and they get it done, right? But if you call them on it and you say, I'm not doing it, take your best shot, then it's on them to take their best shot, and they got to pull you into a civil court. And if you have the constitutional right to own a pig with a straight tail or curly tail, then how can a rule take it away? It would have to be a law. So if you want to take this pig away, pass a law. Let's see you do it. Can't do it. Like right now, they want to take guns. Let's see you do it. Pass an amendment and see if you can get it done. But it's such a hot button issue that no politician would bet their livelihood on it. We're going to create a bill that would take guns out of the hands of law-abiding citizens. Really, in a state like this, good luck. Good luck. Good luck walking the street. Okay. Julie Batchman West. Okay, there is a new documentary called Died Suddenly. Check it out. I did. I highly recommend it. If you were fooled into taking any kind of that antidote, you probably won't sleep well after watching it. Okay. Inga, When paper money and coins are replaced, two separate worlds will emerge: barter trade and self sufficiency, and those enslaved to everything digital. That could be. That could be an accurate rendition. But then, um, if we're going to supply food to the people that are digital, are we going to have to be digital too? I wonder. I wonder how that'll shake out. Oh, okay. Free virtual girls chat here. Right on. Jay Z. Okay. Amazon is firing 20,000 employees, including the management. See, now Amazon is based on the Babylonian system. Would you not agree? Been around for a while. And so if they're going into the America 2.0, a lot of that dead weight is going to have to go. And a lot of it's not just dead weight, it's worse than dead weight. Like what they did at Twitter by getting rid of a lot of those twisted individuals there. And I mean twisted. They really had to get rid of them. And I don't feel sorry for those people, but now they have to go out into the workforce. They got to come and ask guys like me for jobs. Jay Z, I go with union employed Meyer workers. All right. We might see the rebirth of the local artisan if things get really bad. No. I that was one I kind of might see. I don't know about that. I again, I had a in-depth conversation with Matt today, and me as somebody who is creating something a little different here, um, I was telling him it's hard to find the right people to plug in, and we've been looking for them. So we have a plan, and we are trying to plug the right people in to make this happen. But I don't see where it's got to get really bad before the artisan, like Nancy is a good example of, it didn't have to get bad, but she was able to look down the road far enough to say, hey, I'm going to do this. So she is the artisan, the local artisan, right? Right now she's just learning, got her first saw, killed her first pig, but a year from now she might be it in her neighborhood. I mean, totally it. She knows how to do this. Um, okay, so Ghost is saying we might see the rebirth of the. I think we've already seen it, Ghost. I do. Maybe not as widespread as it needs to be or will eventually be, but I think how what is the fuel for this phenomenon of all these people coming to Baker's Green Acres for adult education to learn how to butcher pigs, how to butcher cows, how to butcher pigs, how to do charcuterie, how to do fence building, how to do soils management. What is driving them here? Is it me, or I'm just saying, hey, we've got some solutions here. If you want them, come on. And I think others are hearing what I'm saying, and you know who you are, and they're saying he's onto it. He's onto something. I am. I am onto something. And they will be too. They're just getting their street cred down now. They're doing the thing and doing the thing, becoming proficient, and then they're going to be trainers, full-fledged trainers, and people will flock to them. How do you do this? I'm telling you. You think people are saying, "Oh, I got to learn how to do a spreadsheet. I got to learn how to do a spreadsheet. I mean, we're going to have a depression and I don't know how to do a spreadsheet." Or Google Docs. I don't know how to do Google Docs. So I think, yeah, what you're saying there, Ghost, is right. Might be a good thing. I think might be. We have too many people that do know how to do spreadsheets and don't know how to do anything else. That's why they're able to say, if you don't have this over your face, then you can't come in this store, and kind of get away with it. They were kind of effective. But just think if it was 1943 America. Hey, we can't go to the store without a face mask on. Okay, we don't go to the store anyway. So what? What do you want? Go to hell. You know? Cobblers, furniture makers, food markets, etc. Yeah. You know, it'd be fun to do right now, even if some of you, there's a collective going on here, and if people are thinking, okay, I'm asking you to tell me, what do you think America 2.0 will look like? Is it along those lines? What Ghost is saying? The artisan, the uh, the the home settlements, the farm settlements. Hey, I don't think I'm kind of thinking so. Actually, I know so because I'm experiencing it. We have a little overhang off our butcher shop right on the driveway. People pull in, they stop, they get out, they go into the refrigerator there, and they take out milk, they take out eggs, they take out chickens, they put them in their car, they leave money in the can, and they drive out. It's a store. Yeah, that happens. That's happening every single day here, every day. Now that's an it's different than going to Myers and Walmart. You know, it's completely different. It's going from producer to consumer. There's no middleman. There's nobody stocking shelves. It comes out of the butcher shop, goes into the freezer, and then it's taken from the freezer and it goes home and it's thawed and it's eaten. That is a beautiful thing. And what does that do? We're making way better than a 3% margin. So what's that enable us to do? More effectively, hire people, um, tune up our operation, fortify our position. I'm doing that right now. We're building a new shop. We're converting our maintenance shop. I'm going to have to wash the grease off the floor so that we can have a bigger place to butcher in. Oh, can you imagine if I was partnering with Department of Agriculture on that? You can't do that in here. It's actually connected to the barn. Oh, really? Yeah, it's connected to the barn. The air from there has manure in it and it's coming in. Oh, okay. It's got to be a separate building on a separate well with an air handler. They would just have a fit. Inga, my friend flies to Zambia 4 times a year. Everywhere you go, people have planted produce, fruit, and food sources. They will never starve there. Yeah, that's because they've had hard times. Puerto Rico's like that too. Yeah, they've known hard times. Um, I was talking to this Amish guy, and I asked him if he knew about the Great Depression, and he did not. And he would have been born after the Great Depression. My father was born in 21, and he remembers it, but he grew up, he was like 8 years old when the Depression happened, and they were poor anyway. And I don't know, um, exactly what that was like for him. I think he just kind of grew up in it. It wasn't like he was an adult and then the crash happened. But he told me some things. But my grandparents were the ones that I wasn't old enough to really. Well, I was. I could have talked to my grandfather about it, but I never did. Just never did. But They were extremely frugal people, extremely. And they were systematic. They were very systematic. My grandfather was an industrial arts teacher at Boston High School, and he lived in Hyde Park, and he had a city lot. So I suppose it was a quarter acre. But then he had the lady next door let him use her back part of her property, and then he gave her all kinds of produce, and he produced so much stuff. I just remember going out in his garden area, and it's just the smell, the rich soil that he had going. And every day we would go up to the corner store, and he would buy him a white owl cigar. And the guy at the store would leave the coffee grounds out in a cut-off milk carton every day. It's the same. And he would put that in the compost pile every day. And yeah, he just very frugal, and their pantry was always full. And yeah. And so maybe that's where we will be coming out of this. Now, were my grandparents that way as young adults when the crash happened? I don't know. The roaring 20s, maybe they were, maybe not. But they learned to be that way. So the Depression lasted 20 years. It lasted 20 years. Stark Raving Ranch. Any advice on training an LGD while having a dumb house dog that hates all the animals? Is the LGTD going to kill the house dog, or will the house dog make the LGD useless too? No, we've got one of those. We inherited a golden doodle from my son. Um, I didn't like the dog very much when he belonged to them, and nothing like the guardian dogs, the Pyrenees, nothing like. But I've actually grown to like this golden doodle pretty well. She's way different than them. Um, they could kill her, I suppose, if they wanted to, but the golden doodle has no interest in animals at all, doesn't even like them, right? Just thinks that she's one of us. Your LGD probably should stay out all the time. And let the house dog be in the house, and just don't let the LGD dog in at all. But I don't think necessarily you have a bad problem there just because, they're different breeds. I would say the LGD dog, we don't really do a whole lot of training, except when they do want to play with chickens, we spank them, and scold them. Some of them you got to scold worse than others. You may. Mr. J, what do you do when you have too many baby pigs? We're about to have too many baby pigs. Nobody's knocking downtown our door to them. Well, there was a time when I did, when we got to get rid of this boar. Okay. Well, there was a time when I wasn't selling them. And so we just wound up feeding them, and I had a lot of them. And it wasn't until we got our butchering program down to where if people didn't buy them, then we just butcher them and sell the meat, because the meat's not hard to sell. But it takes time to develop that market. So now I can sell small pigs pretty easy. I have some, you guys, if you need some. I have some bunch of nice ones. But it does take time to develop that market, and then people come back and they'll get two, and then they'll come back and they'll get four the next year, get six the next year, and then they'll get breeding stock, and then I never see them again, right? But we're always bringing new people into the fold. That's just one of those things. You might have to wind up taking it in the shorts and really lowering the price on them. It's what you can do. How far do you live from me, Mr. J? Ah, the ghost is saying, Mr. J, applesauce or BBQ is nice. Huh? Yeah, you can make suckling pigs like little rabbits. The movement seemed to have started maybe a decade ago. I think that recent events are fueling it even further. From my point of view, Ghost, I think that's an understatement. I really do. Like I've told you guys, and you haven't been around in a while. You missed. Well, I haven't been on that much either, but we've had a really diverse crowd of people coming into our classes now. Really diverse. Where it used to be all kind of the same strata of people, but now it's young families. The one we did down in Trufant, there was 3 couples, and each one of the couples was very unique, very unique. And one of the couples, I even said, "Why exactly you guys here?" And she said, "What, do we not look like we should be here? Is it because I'm Asian?" I said, "No, that has nothing to do with it. Matter of fact, I was stationed in that part of the world, and I would think you would want to be into this, but because they have hard times there, as far as food. But they were just 35-ish, and I don't know, maybe it's the generation. That generation, you don't seem to think of them as fishermen, and maybe it's just their peer group that I see, and I just when I see others in that group, I kind of stereotype them. Probably that's it. That's probably it, because they were really earthy people, and it worked out really good. But we're seeing a really diverse crowd. There was people in the last class that were very interesting. They had escaped from Oregon. They had literally packed up and left, and kind of nomaded it, and wound up in Kentucky, of all places, and loved it. They just love their life now, homesteaders. All right, Mr. J, I'm really good at handles, axes, hammers, whatever is that in artisan skill. All right, so you're a handle maker. You got a handle on it. Okay. Nancy says, there's a woman came to my place because my cousin was telling her what I've been up to, and said people will take classes because I will know how to grow in the area and butcher. I told her probably, wait a minute, Nancy's, don't tell me this. Oh, I told her probably not. I'll be too busy doing my thing. Well, one thing that you can kind of consider is when you do a class, there's a lot of times when it requires busy work. Okay, you show a cut, and then it's okay. Now we got to get all this meat off the bone and get it sorted, and then run it through the grinder. And people are like, "Oh, I can do that." So they get to rest a little while they're grinding meat, and then they package it up and they do a nice job. And you actually people are paying you to instruct them, and then they wind up doing a lot of the work for you. They really do. And they're glad to do it because it's they're immersing themselves in the process, and it's what you as the instructor want to do for them. You want to immerse them in it, and not just the cut from point A to point B. It's what else goes along with that. How do you sharpen the knife? How do you put on an apron? What kind of gloves do you wear? You know, do you handle the meat with your grubby hands, or do you wash them first? There's a lot of things that we teach along the way. The ghost. I am happy then that I am grounded in many of those things. I can do spreadsheets, know a little science, and a do-it-yourselfer. I think you're pulling my leg. It's funny that I goof on spreadsheets. I goof on golf too a lot. I don't even know I don't know spreadsheets. I don't know that, and it doesn't interest me. But I should probably, yeah. I like golf. I probably won't get around to doing it unless something really changes. But I never did see it as all that much fun. It was okay if you have a golf cart and a cooler with lots of cold beer, and a certain time limit that it all has to be consumed by, and that was kind of fun. I don't think Elon Musk will come out with a Tesla model Homestead. You know what he could come out with that'd be good, Ballistic, is or what I get the feeling is on the horizon is free energy. I do. Okay, we'll see. I know many are not looking into EMP protection of your devices, but a video I watched was using an aluminum garbage can with a lid. You out devices in with lid on, has a 50 decibel dB. Is that decibel rating? Huh. Yeah. I never even heard of EMPs until I got out of the military. I never heard of it. I don't know. EMP, if you guys don't know, it's electromagnetic pulse. And supposedly if they detonate a nuke at a certain level in the atmosphere, then it can turn all of your devices into antennas that will draw lots and lots of energy and overload them, fry them. But I don't know. I just don't know. You know. The ghost says, good point about EMP. Many people don't consider that their devices might be rendered junk. Russia has nukes developed just for that purpose. Here we go with the Russians again. If Russia sets a nuke off in the atmosphere, it will render most devices, if not dead, in the radius. Anyone thought I would mention it? Anyway, thought I would mention it. Yeah, it's a valid concern. I'm way down. Mr. J says he's way down in South Alabama, down by Greenbow, Alabama, I reckon. You're a regular Forrest Gump. I have a lot of reference books and such knowledge on computer. I'd rather make sure I have a setup safe from EMP to preserve it all. Yeah, wouldn't that be terrible to have to go back to the encyclopedias? Mr. J says, yeah, I don't comment much, but I really do enjoy everything you talk about. Well, thanks. Appreciate that. Ballistics saying handles are as important as the shovel head or axe head. That's for sure. try to dig with a shovel with no handle on it, and it's kind of tough. I've got a spot in my shop where all the broken handled toys go, and I always say one of these days I'm going to just make a day of it and just fix all these. Um, one of these days, it's on the list. On the list. All right, so I appreciate you guys all coming by tonight and having a chat with me, helping me get some thoughts out. It is helpful because we're all kind of concerned about what's going on and all that, but I believe that this is what we need to do. I think what we're doing is what we need to do, and it's funny because whenever there's some sort of problem that's looming, and I've had micro situations like this in the military, and somebody has the right idea. Generally, the person with the wrong idea has the biggest following. So we don't have a massive following, so I guess that's a good sign, huh? All right. Well, it's 9:37. Hour and a half we've gone. Easy. Let's see, what do we got here? Ghost says, well, it's a lot of specific stuff. Encyclopedias won't make up for its loss. Yeah, it's true. Remember encyclopedias? If you plagiarized out of it, the teacher knew because it'd been happening for so long. Now it's kind of hard to get caught for plagiarism because it's just so much information at your fingertips. Anyway, let's convene on this again and let's talk more about America 2.0, what it's going to look like if we have our say. And we do have a say. In a way, we get to write our history. Isn't that nice? We don't have to let them write our history because if we listen to them, we're going to be disarmed, poor, destitute, and, having to take orders from people who don't know who to be married to, weirdos. So and I don't think that's what's going to happen, not for us. So with that, I'm going to sign off, and I would like to remind you that anyone can farm. If any of yous would like to go to this class, there's a couple open seats. It's not too late to learn how to do the thing. If you learn how to do the thing, you will have the power. All right. Anyone can farm. Good night. See you next Tuesday.